Alright guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the vlog. So today the first thing we're going to do is go over a budget sound system and show you guys how to install this thing for dirt cheap. Alright, so as you guys know, mostly we're about performance stuff, going fast, having fun, lifted trucks. I do have a daily driver, and you guys have noticed I've been uploading a little bit with this car. Ignore the mess, we got some mountain bike stuff going on here. So I had to clean the trunk out of this thing. So this is my hoopty, and the hoopty is classified as a vehicle that you spent less money on than you did your bike. That classified as a hoopty. So anyway, this is an LS4 powered SS Impala. It's pretty minty fresh. You guys have probably seen the earlier episodes. If you haven't, go check it out. This is my new daily kind of fun project sleeper car. I've never had a sleeper, so it was kind of fun to have this. You know, to keep up with like a stock WRX or a RT Charger or Challenger. It's really funny. But so anyway, we're going to go over a budget sound system install on this thing. And yes, this is a massive bike rack that I have on here. So this totally ties into the sleeper theme. So anyway, if you're going to do a budget sound system, the one thing you don't want to do is change out the head unit. So that's like the number one thing that like costs the most money, I would say, because that's like $200 or more. And then you need an amp, and then you need a box, then you need a sub, and then you're going to take up space in your trunk. So it just goes on and on. So anyway, what we want to do in this car is retain the stock sound system. As far as we're going to keep the stock head unit, and to keep it super cheap, we got a Bluetooth adapter plugged in there. You can get those from Amazon for like 15 bucks. Make it Bluetooth, dirt cheap. Definitely the way to go, because we don't want to spend money on this thing. So anyway, sound system in the back. Look at all the room. Lots of room in the trunk. Now these cars from the factory, you know, early 2000s cars. So early 2000s cars really just have no sound system quality at all. They're pretty bad. So I did go ahead and slide two kickers in the door, and I'll drop a picture of that here. And yeah, so that turned out really good. I was gonna do a video on that, but you guys, that's kind of boring to watch, so I didn't want to bore you with that. But actually today, I do have a sub that just showed up, and it has an amp built in. So we're gonna go over that real quick. I'm gonna show you guys how to hook this into the stock unit for dirt cheap. All right, so factory sub, so the factory system in this thing, you just press this little button right here, $15. All of a sudden the phone is connected. And you can play whatever you want. Now I'll probably get, you know, all kinds of copyright stuff, so we're not gonna play any music. So you guys are gonna have to bear with me, and we gotta find some non-copyrighted music to play on this thing. No copyright sounds. We're gonna play this song here. Let's get something with some bass in it so you guys can hear this. Now, so it sounds okay, right? Like it's really not bad for stock. The kickers in the door do a lot of work for this thing. I mean, in all honesty, that's really not too bad for a stock sound system. It's really not too bad. But, you know, with a factory sound system, you know, you can only do so much. All right, guys, so we got the hoopty over here on the lift, and I started taking away some of the panels and just seeing where the factory harness runs. It looks like I'm going to be able to possibly go into this loom that comes from the trunk. So what we're going to be installing today is a Rockville 500 watt, just a kind of a cheapy sub. It's a 10-inch. I'm sure that's actually like $250. And here it is. It's basically a bass tube, and it's got a built-in amplifier on the back side. There's your built-in amplifier. So that's going to be nice and kind of, you know, concealed in the trunk. I don't want anything crazy loud. I'm not a big audio guy, but the sound system in this thing is really suffering. It has absolutely no bass at all. It's really terrible. So I'm hoping we can just tap into the factory stuff and use this little sub to just give it that little edge it needs. So if you're going to be doing this, the right way to do it is to take away the panels and start pulling all this loose, which I've started doing. We're gonna snake our way through here, pull these panels out, and the wiring harness should be coming through here. So I should be able to find that and just right through here, right up to the battery. Got enough wire to go all the way to here, plug it in, and then we'll run our remote wire to save myself from going out underneath the firewall. We're gonna tap into the factory fuse box here with this ADA circuit from Eaton. Get these at any parts store, mini fuse. Probably most common thing, but yeah, plug this in. It's gonna give you a signal to your amp. That way when you turn the key on, amp comes on, but it goes off when the key switches off. That's an important thing, otherwise your amp's gonna run all the time and drain the battery. So what we're gonna do is tap into the factory amp has a fuse and the XM has a fuse, so you could pick either one of those and they're gonna be off when the key switch is off. So let's go ahead and get the rest of these panels out, start pulling these loose and see if we can sneak a wire through here. All right, so I found a way to run the power wire. I'm gonna walk you guys through this one real quick. Pulled all these panels loose, followed this around. This one's a little tight, but you can pop it loose with proper tools. Once you get this out, you can sneak the wire through here. Pushed it through where the leather seat goes. There's actually a hole here that would work pretty good, but I don't want a sharp edge hole, so I kept on going. And found that little accessory hole right there. It's not really sharp or cutting into anything. I may put a grommet on that just to keep it from doing anything weird. And that's it. There's actually one above it I could use too, but there you go. There's how you get it into the trunk in Impala. That's pretty much going to apply for any car. You could find these holes where they stamp this stuff out in the factory and just snake your wire through it. Make sure it's not cutting into it or there's any sharp edges on it. You can see it's not really all that bad to do. So I'm going to go ahead and tidy that up, and then coming out the firewall might be a little interesting. Not much light here, but I don't see anything running out the firewall down here readily available. So I may drill through this, put a grommet in it, snake it up straight to the battery. So not too bad. We'll go ahead and finish this up. All right, guys, I'm going to show you a little trick here on how to chase wires through a hole that's literally impossible if the wire's bending. Take your clothes hanger, anything, some kind of wire that's pretty malleable. You can tape the wire that you want to run through there to the end of that, and then once you get it snaked through there, just push it the rest of the way, and bam, look at that. It comes right out. So just a quick tip. Look here. Bam. There's all you need if you're trying to snake wires through something. Also works if you're going up through the firewall too and you're following the existing wiring harness. This will also help, but in my case, I don't know if it's going to help me here. So we're going to keep on moving, but that's just a quick little trick to get wires through a hole. All right, guys, so coming out the firewall, I want to show you how I did this one real quick. You can see that access panel right there, and I followed the main wiring harness all the way up to the battery. I'll show you guys up here on the lift what I'm talking about. All right, so kind of sketchy. We're up here on the lift. Comes right out through there. So it comes right out through the firewall, through that grommet that we made, up through here. Gonna connect it straight to the battery. You'll never know this car had a sub in it. There's where it goes out the bottom. Comes out through the floorboard right there. Follows this on up around through the floorboard. So it did end up drilling a hole in the floorboard. I didn't initially want to do that, but the wiring harness in this car is so tight you could not get the main power wire through there. So I went ahead, drilled a hole in the floorboard. It does have grommets on it, so it's protected, and it's also got a weather stripping shield we ran through and done all this. So now that I'm finally done with the power wire, we can move on to the back of the trunk here and start working on the actual sub. All right, guys, so it's been a little while. I had to go get some food, come back and take care of the baby, and everybody's in bed now. So I'm out here at night slaving away. And as you guys can see, I've been tinkering a little bit. So to get this thing wired in correctly, what you have to do if you're going to use a stock head unit, you got to tap into your rear speakers. So that's exactly what we've done here. Basically, I've just kind of rigged it, you know, but that's what we do. We rigged it up. Not really, actually. It's tied together pretty good. So this goes together and goes into a line-out converter. This is a SNI35 line-out converter. If you do not have a line-out converter on this thing, it will sound like absolute garbage. You're literally going to want to throw it out in the yard after you do all that work and you hook that up without a converter. It literally is terrible. Do not ever use high outputs on a factory radio. You're wasting your time. I almost didn't finish this video, guys, because I was so upset with how that sounded. I was like, wow, this was a ripoff. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try the line-out converter. I bought it. I didn't know if I'd need it. Let's just hook it up. Took me an extra 30-45 minutes to do it, and holy smokes, this thing hits so hard, guys. I can't even begin to tell you how good and clean the bass is on this thing. For $170 all combined, if you guys want to change your sound system completely, go with one of these subs, wire it in. You do not need a fancy head unit, and use a line-out converter. You will not be disappointed at all. I'm also going to show you guys real quick how I finished the under hood wiring. As you guys can tell, everything back here is really clean right now. You would never know. Okay, the trunk's not. Ignore the trunk, but so the wires run. You can see where I snaked them through. And when the seat folds back, you'll never see it. It goes down through here, and out underneath the hood, and we did some extra work here to get the remote wire. You can see, you probably can't even really tell there's a sub unless I show you this. So there's my fuse. You can see that blue wire, guys, that's the remote wire. So for the remote wire, the best thing to do, go to your fuse box, tap into the ignition crank, or just anything that's gonna have power when the key is on. It needs to hold power. So in my instance, I actually ended up tying into an emissions fuse, because who cares about emissions? And turns out that thing stays hot while the key's on, so it literally works perfect. And then I tapped into the fuse box there to make a nice, neat little cover. And yeah, run everything up to the battery. Pretty simple. It did take quite a while to do this, so for you guys that's thinking, oh yeah, you know, this is a 2-hour job. This is not a 2-hour job. But yeah, so for a budget system, totally worth it, guys. The Rockville 10-inch 500 watt, it's the RTB 10A. Grab yourself one of these things and go ahead and get the little kit that it recommends. 8-gauge wire is all you need, and please buy a line-out converter. I cannot say that enough. You literally are just wasting your time. Like, don't even do this if you're not going to hook that up. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up now, and we're going to do some no copyright music on here so you guys can enjoy a little bass. All right, guys, so it got kind of late on me the other night, so I decided to go ahead and finish it on up. It ended up working way past midnight because it took forever to get all this stuff out of the way and looking good. So I'm going to show you guys the finished product real quick. All right, so the back of the car, first impressions of it, you can't hardly even see it. I mean, if you just walk up on this thing, you'd never really know anything was going on. Now, I do have an old bow tie that I'm going to paint. I just found that today to kind of like scotch the thing into position. So I'm using these straps with self-tappers, and then the wiring harness is going across the carpet there, down on against the frame. There's my line output converter. There's where I tied into the stock speakers. It's pretty neat. It's up and out of the way. As far as I'm concerned, that's going to work just fine. You don't really even notice it. As we step along to the front of the car, I'll show you guys the wiring up here. So on the front, the wiring's pretty straightforward. You can still see where the harness actually comes up through the engine bay, but it's pretty neat. And I did tap into the stock fuse box. I'll show you guys that real quick. All right, so to get your stock fuse box off, just a couple of clips, and bam, you guys see that right there? That is the add a circuit. You can buy those things at Advance or AutoZone, O'Reilly's, anywhere like that. I think that one actually came from AutoZone. They're the only ones that had a mini fuse that I was looking for. Drilled a small hole here in the bottom of the fuse box, and it's super tight, so there's not going to be any water coming in. Everything has grommets on it. Drilled holes through the floor and ran the wires up, so it's nice and neat. And yeah, you don't really even notice anything different about it unless you go looking for it. So the big question everybody wants to know is, was this sub worth buying and how good does it make a stock system sound? So I'm gonna crank this thing up real quick and show you guys how good a stock system can sound if you add just a little extra bass. All right guys, so here's the same song, no copyright sounds, because we don't want to get any trouble on us. So here you go, here's a little bass. I've got this thing tuned pretty good. That is a dramatic difference in the stock sound system. So keep in mind, this is factory head unit. The only thing that's changed in here is this thing does have a set of kicker speakers in the doors, and those help a lot actually. They're just 6.5s, and combine that with this little Rockville sub that's running off speaker inputs. This is pretty good. I'd say this is equivalent to what the Bose system would sound like. Take a listen. All right, now you're probably wondering, okay, how much of a difference does that make over a stock system? Funny you should ask. I have this plumbed into the ignition switch, so if we cut this off, this is gonna give you an example of what it's like without the sub. As you can tell, door speakers are doing their work, but here it is with the sub. Pretty good for a stock system. Now, one of the other good things about this system, it doesn't rattle everything. All right guys, so that's gonna wrap it up for this quick short video going over how to transform your stock sound system. And just keep in mind, these same methods that I just used can be applied to any vehicle. So if you're wanting to tie a stock sub in, this will work on any car. All you need is speaker outputs and a line output converter, and of course a sub of your choice, but I would recommend going with the Rockville. I'm pretty surprised at how well this thing performed, and I think it was around 140, 150 bucks, so that's pretty tough to beat considering most decent boxes are probably gonna run you almost that much. I've had this thing in here now for about 2 weeks and it's been awesome, so I can't say anything bad about it. So if you guys are thinking about going with the Rockville, I will go ahead and say that is a big thumbs up. Pretty awesome sub for the money. So if you guys enjoyed this video and you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe. Click the bell while you're at it. You're going to get notified anytime I do an upload. And thank you guys for watching. I will catch you all